All right, let's get going here. So I'm Andy Back. I am the Planning and Development Services Manager for Washington County. This is the Washington County Development Forum. We do this every 6 months, although we did not do it 6 months ago. April was an interesting time for Washington County and the cities. We anticipate doing this on a 6-month basis. We'll see as April 2021 emerges whether or not we will be doing it in person then. Hopefully we will. I do want to mention, I believe Stephen Roberts is here. He's my boss. And I don't know if there's any elected officials here from Washington County. But I did want to point out Stephen is here. Let's talk a little bit about the etiquette. You've had 43 seconds to read that. Folks will be muted unless they're talking. We will have a question and answer period at the end where we will use the raise hand button. And we're getting better at this, but there could be some technical issues as we go through this. Ding, that means advance to the next slide here. Let's jump to the next one from here, given time constraints. So I just want to talk a little bit about the forum goals. Mainly it's to share information about development related services and activities. We want to hear from customers to better support our needs. And really the best thing is the having time to build relationships between staff and our customers. This is a different format for that. Normally we have 15 or 20 minutes or more at the end with refreshments and food to casually talk about things. We can't do that now. I've been told that the cities have volunteered to take anybody who's attending to a 5-star restaurant when this is all done. So winner, winner, chicken dinner. Actually, that's not happening, but it sounds good to me. Let me talk a little bit about our activity. So since 2017 and 2018, when we were sort of at the peak, things have dropped off about 20 or 30% in 2019 and 2020. We certainly hit a low point with COVID activities in March through June of this year. But since July 1st, activity, July 1st through September, those 3 months has been about the same as it was in 2019. Still quite a bit less than 2018 or 2017, but it's starting to normalize. But we're doing things differently. We are still open, but our activity level for customers coming in has been quite a bit less. We're taking more phone calls. We're doing a lot more things online, as is everyone. Our Excel permit system and Project Docs has really helped us quite a bit in meeting those needs, but it certainly has been different. And I'm not going to go in a lot of details, but I think the sum of all the experiences that you'll hear from the cities and our other partners sort of reflects what's going on at the county, that we've been doing our work a lot differently. Do want to mention some staff updates since it's been a year. We've had some people leave. Generally, we haven't filled their positions, so we've had about 5 people in building and a couple people in current planning leave over the last year. Generally, if it was a supervisory position, we backfilled it with an existing employee, but we haven't hired external people. I do want to mention one person in a critical role, Stephen Shane, who is here, is our new principal planner in current planning. So he replaced Tom Harry. So he's an important person to know if you're in the development game. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to some of our participants today. Lee Crabtree will be leading it off. Each person gets 6 minutes to present their whatever they want to present, and we'll go from there. If you go over 6 minutes, then you will be buying a 5-star dinner for the person after you who you're taking the time away from. So with that, it's the Lee Crabtree Show. Take it away.
Thanks, Andy. Hi, everybody. I will definitely try not to go over my 5 minutes, but if I do, well, that's just what happens. Well, I think it's 6, but I'm up to the challenge. I didn't prepare a presentation or anything. I just wanted to share with you, like everybody else will, what we've been up to and what's been going on at the city of Beaverton. When we shut down, when we closed the building in mid-March, we only closed the building. We didn't stop working. And we are really happy and proud about that. We caught some customers off guard. Our inspectors were out on site and they came across people packing up their tools and like, where are you guys going? I said, well, you're closed. Like, no, we're not. I mean, our building is, but we're not. And so people got really happy and went back to work. Although their work has slowed on project sites because trying to keep different folks, just keeping people separated and timed differently to come in so they're not on top of each other on a job site has slowed things down. But generally speaking, on the site development side and the planning side, we're still rolling along. I can say that on our building side, things have slowed on the plan review and inspection side. We're hoping that picks back up. We have indication that will pick back up. What we are told is that we have builders who are, especially on the single family side, they are finishing up projects, which means finishing up subdivision build outs in other jurisdictions. And then when they're done with those, they're going to come back and concentrate. So congratulations to all of you who are getting all that activity. We hope to inherit it from you here soon. We have a number of projects that are still underway and super busy. Our Patricia Resource Center for the Arts and our Central Garage are under construction, and they are well out of the ground. They've topped off and are going great. We've had some interesting adjustments on construction sites. So we are also a builder, right? And that particular project, we had to go to robots to place large block. So that was a change of operation when you usually have like 2 or 3 people placing large blocks together, and they can't do that anymore. There are cost implications. So for us, it's being part of construction also helps us understand what's going on with contractors, which it's really interesting to have those good conversations with them about how the industry is changing and what they need to do as well. I think what I can also share is that in order to keep staff, so for anybody who was around for the last downturn, many jurisdictions had to lay people off. And I think we all feel the pain of having to bring people back after a slowdown and when those people don't exist. So we've been working really hard with other departments in the city to keep people busy. So when we have people that are light on work because construction has slowed down or plan review has slowed down, we are definitely finding work for them in the city so that we don't lose our staffing. We had a lot of, because we were heading into the summer, the city had a lot of work that is normally seasonal that they didn't hire out for those seasonal positions. They just took on staff or they took on our staff in order to deal with backlogs of like records management or code compliance. So we've had a lot of partnership around the city. Otherwise, the other parts of our work don't slow down. So for those of you who don't know, we have 7 divisions in our community development department, which include planning, transportation planning, site development, and building, but we also have economic development and development. And we work on those long range projects that many of our interjurisdictional partners do. But so like the metro, all the metro coordination work and all the Washington County coordination work continues to happen. And we really appreciate our partnership with everybody on those efforts, especially on the transportation side. But we do have some projects coming up that we're excited to put out. We really focus on our downtown, trying to make it a vibrant place for people. So we have a loop that we're working on that goes around our downtown, and that work is moving on so that we can get a good pedestrian connection in and around our city. How am I doing on time, Andy?
30 seconds.
Okay. Well, I'll just close that. And if you guys have any questions for us, just let us know. But the last thing I needed to let you know is we've kicked off implementation of our new permitting system. And so we are happy about that.
Andy,
thank you. Lee, Ryan, did you go for it?
Hi, good morning. I need to share my screen, so if somebody can help facilitate that. I just have a few slides.
Sure. You should be allowed to share now.
Thank you. All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Ryan Wells. I'm the Community Development Director for the City of Cornelius, and I'm very happy to be here. Just got a few slides I want to share with you. First, with relation to our response to COVID-19, we were working from home collectively in Cornelius for a couple months. But at this point, all of our city staffs, city offices are open to the public, and we're fully staffed. We were very fortunate that we didn't have any layoffs, but there weren't too many people to lay off in the first place. Our permitting timelines and processes haven't really been affected. We still boast a pretty efficient and quick permitting review and land use permitting process. Really the major change is that we're not holding any meetings in person, as anybody would not be doing right now. All of our public hearings are being held over video conference types of tools, as well as our pre-application conferences, of which we've had a number throughout the year. We're continuing to get a number of development inquiries, although those I think have slowed a bit. I think the lending system has been a little bit more risk averse now, and so we haven't seen a lot of ambitious projects coming in, but there's still a lot of developers kind of snooping around Cornelius to see what opportunities might be there. One thing we surely haven't seen affected negatively, which I think a lot of our neighbors probably can have experienced as well, as home building has shown no sign of slowing. It's probably been the most robust home building season that I've experienced in Cornelius in my 5 years there. And I think our records show that probably for a good decade, it hasn't seen this level of activity. So there's a number of attendees here, a good number. And so just real quickly, Cornelius is a city of about 12,250 based on the last PSU estimate. We're about 2 1/3 square miles total area, nestled between Forest Grove and Hillsborough on the west side of the Portland metro region. We are almost 52% Latino, so we are the second in the state as far as our Latino population proportion. And we have the fortune and misfortune of having a state highway running right through the middle of town, through our downtown, which brings a heck of a lot of traffic, but as you can imagine, some development challenges too. I wanted to share just 3 projects that have kind of taken place over this last year, have persisted through the COVID issues and things that we've still been able to celebrate here in Cornelius. First is the completion of an industrial project in the north side of the city, which is called the Higher Taste. It's a 17,000 square foot food processing and production facility. It's a local company that makes vegetarian and vegan foods, and we're very proud that they've chosen Cornelius to settle and place their headquarters here. They did benefit from an enterprise zone property tax incentive, which we're able to offer throughout our industrial district. And this facility opened in March 2020, but given the timing, unfortunately, we weren't able to have a nice big ribbon cutting ceremony, and so that is on hold until who knows when. but this is a great company. We expect about 60 employees at full build out. Another industrial project here in Cornelius is Myers Container. This is a reuse of an existing 183,000 square foot warehouse that is being converted into a manufacturing facility. This company manufactures and refurbishes steel drums and IBC totes. This project has been affected by COVID as far as the delays in the project schedule, but nonetheless, as they work through their permitting process with other agencies, we do expect that incremental steps to fulfillment of this operation will be made over the next few months. And then on the residential side, we continue to see huge activity at our Laurel Woods development. This is the largest development by far in Cornelius' history. 905 lot single family attached and detached subdivision on the south side of town. This was a result of HB 4078 or the Grand Bargain back in 2014, a major annexation to the city and resulting residential development en masse. Out of the 12 phases of this project, phases 1 and 7 are under construction currently. And as you can see with this figure here, there's significant public infrastructure construction. This project includes a mix of single family detached residential, attached units like zero lot line type of residential, and then townhouses as well. So a nice mix of housing types. These units are front and rear loaded. We've permitted about 220 units to date. And again, out of 905, so there's still quite a ways to go. And I'm hearing from the builder that this development has really accommodated first-time home buyers and young families, which is exactly what we wanted to see. We didn't want a large swath of our population priced out of this opportunity. So it's very reassuring to see that that's a very common buyer in this market. And then I think I'm very especially proud of on this project is the amount of open space that we're able to provide to our community, including a 6.5 acre community park that is currently under construction and bound to open later on this year, and a nearly 1 mile long trail along the Tualatin River Greenway. Just really nice amenities to make this community attractive and enticing for somebody who wants to live in the suburbs. So here's a current map of all the development happening in the city. I took a lot off because things have been wrapping up over the last 6 months. But in total, since 2015, we've approved over 1,200 new residential units, many of them either already built or under construction, majority of that single family residential. We're in the process of conducting a housing needs analysis so that we can stay ahead of the curve and know what we need to do to accommodate future growth and development. With all this residential growth, we're expecting a 25 to 30% increase in our population over the next 5 years or so, which is going to be pretty significant. And we're bracing ourselves and making correct plans to accommodate that and absorb that without unduly affecting our existing population, our residents. And we hope that this residential growth will bring some critical mass for additional commercial and industrial growth so that we have a complete community and we don't lose half our population every day to commuters going elsewhere for employment. That's about it, and happy to answer any questions when the time comes. Thank you.
Great, appreciate it, Ryan. Next up is Brian from Forest Grove. Brian here? Well. I guess we'll move on. Maybe he'll show up later.
1 sec, Andy. He got disconnected, so he's back up now.
Okay, there you are. Hey, Brian, it's your turn. Go for it. Brian? Oh, Brian. Okay, why don't we, Michael, if you can work with him behind the scenes, we're just going to move on and let Chris Berry go ahead, and hopefully Brian can, we can figure out the technical issues there.
Sounds good.
So go ahead, Chris.
Thank you, Andy. And I am going to also share my screen if that's all right. All right. So similar to some of the other cities and the numbers that Andy was sharing with everybody from the county, we're experiencing a similar trend here in Hillsborough. So I'm on the development services team within the planning division. The permit activity has ebbed and flowed over the last 12 months. Keep in mind that this chart and these numbers are capturing land use as well as building permits. So what you're seeing in this table is that the trend, similar to what Andy had mentioned for the county, dropped there in the spring and early summer, but have rebounded to similar numbers from 2019. These numbers similarly are lower than the peak in 2018. The residential and industrial development in the city of Hillsborough remains steady and strong. So there's a couple of projects that I'll highlight here. So South Hillsborough is the largest area for residential activity in our city. And these are just a couple of recent pictures. The one in the upper left is from the Reeds Crossing project, and the one in the lower right is from the Rosedale Parks project. Then moving on to the specific activity that we've seen in South Hillsborough. So permits that have been issued are over 1,000 at this point in time. And you can see that that's a mixture of single family, townhomes, and multifamily. And then the number of homes that have received occupancy, which is the realization of decades of work, is over 600. So we have started seeing a lot of residents moving in South Hillsborough. If you have the chance to drive in and through there, it really is starting to feel like a community. And this is, you know, a lot of work that has happened, a lot of partnerships with the county, ODOT, the developers, as well as a variety, CWS, and a variety of city departments. So another residential project in Amerglen that has received approvals. This is just highlighting that we're still seeing activity in Amerglen. That is the revamping of what was traditionally a suburban office park. This project on Lot 35 received approval, land use approvals this year. They have not yet moved into permitting. So these two blue shapes show the footprint of the two buildings, and then this is an elevation showing what that project will look like. Then moving into the non-residential side of our work, Genentech, this is a project that was referred to as Project Arrow. This was an approval granted for 32,000 square foot office building. If you're familiar with this campus, it's about 74 acres. Genentech has very strategically been moving forward with expanding on this campus. Last year, and it's nearing completion now, was Project Gutenberg, which was over 250,000 square foot medical research building. This office building has gone under construction even in the midst of the pandemic. So that's a strong sign that Genentech is expecting to have a need for more staff on site. And here's just the site plan and elevation of the building. JSR Micro is a project in North Hillsborough as well, off of Star Boulevard. And this project was granted approvals in 2019 for nearly 80,000 square foot industrial building. And that project is nearly realized at this point. They are expecting their certificate of occupancy this week. And this shows an elevation of the building during the land use approval process. And here's a picture of that project realized. And then the largest project beyond South Hillsborough that we have, but the largest non-residential project, is the Intel expansion on the Ronler Acres campus. Approvals were granted for the 1 million square foot industrial expansion, D1X Mod 3 on the west side of the campus, as well as a 5-story parking and utility building. That construction continues and remains strong and will continue through 2021. And here are just a couple of pictures of that activity. Our pandemic-related changes, our process, we've seen a lot more temporary use permits. Our staff has been staggered in the office and remote. Our review time frames have remained unchanged. And like the other cities and county that you've heard from, all of our meetings are being done virtually at this point. The trends that we're seeing are more remote working options, a lot of discussions around the impact of limited in-person interaction, pros and cons of the virtual meetings, and the possibility of hybrid models for those, and long-term design impacts of the pandemic. And then lastly, these are the items that our teams will be working on moving forward. And happy to answer questions when the time comes.
Great, Chris. I appreciate it. Let's jump back to Brian and let's see if we can get this working for him. So go for it, Brian.
Well, I had a few things prepared today. Can you all hear me, first of all? A thumbs up.
Yep.
Okay, great. I had a few things prepared. My computer really doesn't seem to like Zoom a whole lot, and I can't click anything right now. So I'm not going to go into any visuals here. But I'll go through my points one by one here, starting small. We did lose one inspector to the private market. We have put out recruitment, have made a hiring offer to a new inspector. So, our inspectors are combination plan reviewers and inspectors. So our review times are a little bit longer than usual, but it kind of hit at a good time, kind of going into the fall. So we anticipate being fully staffed within the next 2 weeks again. On the planning side, we're working on what we call our Oak Street industrial area. This is, if you've driven along 47, it's the big field that's sort of north of McMinimans. It's about 80 acres, 80 to 90 actually, along Highway 47. It's been zoned general industrial for, I think, since the inception of our first comprehensive plan, and had gone through a kind of a look in 2014 to accommodate light rail transit development. The trigger was not pulled at that time to rezone it, but we're looking at this again in light of our recent economic opportunities analysis and housing needs analysis. We showed we were way oversupplied on industrial, way undersupplied on housing, surprise, surprise, as well as retail. So we're looking at sort of reimagining this area potentially as sort of residential, industrial, sort of craft space, mixed use. I don't know if you've ever been to the Hood River waterfront, but there are a few of these sorts of buildings down there where they have this sort of light industrial craft space on the bottom and residential on top. It's just one concept being floated around there, but kind of a way that you could integrate some housing, but also retain some employment lands, as well as kind of provide some incubator space. So, it'd be interesting to see where that goes. We've formed the TAC. We've had one stakeholder advisory committee meeting. I think it's going well. We have one major property owner, Woodfold. They own a cabinet making business in town. They're currently working with DR Horton as their developer, so they're very interested in this project and how it goes along. They would love to see full single family. Don't see that being necessarily the direction that we're going to go, although there are no predetermined outcomes, and it'll be interesting to see where it goes. I'm confused which order to put out the next couple things. We've been really looking at our development review process in Forest Grove, and I caveat this with all this with saying I think we do a really good job in Forest Grove of sort of having an approachable and reasonable development review process, but we're trying to get better. And one of the things we're looking at is sort of, like we have in all government departments, this sort of siloing issue, engineering's reviewing things over here, planning's reviewing things over here, and building's reviewing things all over here. And when the project all kind of comes together, you realize that there are conflicting sort of directions that we've sent them. Some of that is physical space, we're separated from each other. Others are technology, and others are just plain, good human relationships and working relationships. And so we're looking at the concept of, if you've ever been to Forest Grove City Hall, there's City Hall right here, then right next door, there's a little one-story building for our engineering department. We're looking at the concept of tearing down the engineering building and building what we're kind of colloquially referring to as our development services annex right now, to kind of have a one-stop permit shop for the city of Forest Grove. And as the case may be, I guess Cornelius as well. So in kind of formulating that plan and how that might look, we also kind of hit the brakes just a tiny bit and said, you know, we need to really review our processes and kind of look at this as if, you know, if we were, you know, that proverbial sort of, if you were starting this today, would you design it how you're doing it now? And so we actually retained Matrix Consulting, who specializes in sort of government efficiency sort of contracts and everything, to do a full audit of our development review processes and make any recommendations. They've done this for a number of cities with good results, I think. But make any recommendations for where we can kind of cut the fat, where we can improve communication, where technology might fit in to help us. And then also with an eye towards the new space, you know, who makes sense to have in this development review or development services annex. So we're excited about that. They just came on site from North Carolina. They were here yesterday and Tuesday. Had really good buy-in from staff. We were doing some process and workflow mapping, and it was really, I mean, I'm a giant nerd, but I thought it was a lot of fun. We had a good time with that. And what's coming out next for us is going to be our sort of results from the workflow mapping. They also did every single person who submitted for a permit in the last 5 years got a survey about our service to the customers. And shockingly, I thought we'd get about 10 back. We actually got about 120 so far. It closes this weekend. Results were actually overwhelmingly positive, so that's good. But we're trying to kind of call out the themes of where we can improve and direct our work in that direction as well. So more to come on that. Also, as part of that, the big thing I wanted to share with you is that we have also worked with a company called Camino to institute what is not permitting software. I want to be clear about that. It is not permitting software. What Camino is, and I have a demo in front of me that I just can't click on to show you, unfortunately. But what Camino is basically, I invite you to Google it. I invite you to talk to me offline about it. Basically, it's a website where any homeowner or contractor can go. And the first question it asks you is, what's the nature of your project? Residential, commercial? Okay, residential. What are you doing? Room addition and remodel, new house? Okay, what's your address? Blah, blah, blah. And then when you do that, it takes you to a new screen that shows you piece by piece exactly what plans are required, both for building, for planning. It pings off of our, say, historic districts layer. And so it says, you know, oh, you're in historic district. You need to have historic site plan review or historic design review. So what we're trying to build is that sort of level of expectation amongst the customers and the developers and the builders who are coming into our office upfront of realistic timeframes, realistic plan submittal requirements, so that we're not having those sort of 11th hour surprises. I imagine that many of your jurisdictions already do this really well, but this is somewhat new stuff for us to kind of really try to get on that front end of permitting and make the education piece up front work to the builder's advantage. So we're really also excited about that. Be happy to answer any questions about that when it's time. Also, last but not least, we have put out an RFP for what we call Site B. If you've been to downtown Forest Grove, there's the big new shiny Jesse Quinn building, ground floor growler garage, 4 or 3 stories above of apartments. There's another third of that site that fronts onto Pacific Avenue and B Street. And we have put out an RFP for that. Our council was really interested, or our URA, sorry, same people, different hats. Our URA was very interested in seeing proposals that would include a grocery store and or affordable housing. We received one proposal for a grocery store with affordable housing on top. So couldn't do much better than that.
30 seconds.
Grocery store is Manzanita Fresh Foods, or Fresh Foods out of Manzanita. They have a store in Manzanita and Cannon Beach. They're proposing an 18,000 square foot grocery store, 12 to 16 units of affordable housing on top. They are working with the affordable housing component. And if anybody has any expertise or interest, I've already sent them to the county. I'd be happy to talk offline about that as well, just trying to help them out. Done. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Brian.
Andy Forsgrove has the record going right now at an extra 2 minutes.
Well, you know, what can we say? They are also our westernmost city, so that's what they get. Okay, so now it's the better looking and smarter Andy on the call, Andy Varner. So go for it, Andy.
Thank you, Andy. What's the northernmost city get? Is that 3 minutes?
2.5.
2.5. All right. Well, this is debate season, so just don't mute me for 2 of those minutes, and we'll probably be all good. So, hey everyone, I'm Andy Varner, City Manager of North Plains. Population 3,300. We're just north of Highway 26 at the Glencoe interchange. We really haven't had any staffing issues due to COVID. We shut down probably about the same time as everyone else. And as you can see, this is not my office in North Plains. My office is next to my kitchen and it's pancake making time. So I had to get out of there. It would have been a little loud. But just like everyone else, I think it's going to be a repetitive theme. We saw a slowdown in some of the land use and development permitting activity, but all those things are kind of picking up again. Our public bodies, Planning Commission, City Council, we've been meeting back in person since about July, 1st of July, which is nice because I get to perform AV and IT duties at those meetings as well as doing staffing, but they've been going pretty well. It's kind of a hybrid. We still provide a virtual option. So we've got the public and can be on the big screen, and we have presentations going that way as well. We do not have our own city planner. We contract that service as well as city engineer, but since the beginning of this fiscal year, we have a new city engineer on board, and they're actually from the same firm. So that's been good. It's worked out well for us. It's provided a lot of efficiencies in getting our review process going and becoming more efficient. So with some of the slowdown there, though, over the summer with development reviews, the Planning Commission's been doing a lot of code updates, looking at diversifying our housing types and kind of modernizing that code, which in a lot of ways is mirroring what all the cities across the metro area are doing, but we're not in the metro area. It's just something that our Planning Commission city is taking on to be more efficient with our with the inventory of land that we do have in the city, which is not much. And I'll circle back to that around the end. So anyway, we really haven't had an impact at all in our development review process. We still get things kind of in and out the door at the same speed, and no issues there. From an activity standpoint, it's about a 300 home development on the east side of town. That's Sunset Ridge 2. They're kind of in the final stages. There's about, I don't know, 30 or 40 so building permits there to wrap up. As part of that development area, the new elementary school in the Hillsborough School District called Atsalati Ridge. It'll be a 600-person elementary school for 600 kids. That's ahead of schedule now. And it'll be due to open next year for school starting in the fall of 2021. On the north side of town, that's where North Plains is a familiar theme. North Plains' largest development ever, called Bryn Hill. That's a 500 rooftop development. Phase 1 is undergoing now. They just started the groundwork on it last month, and it's just completely transformed now for phase 1. That's about 200 lots and a commercial area going on there. So that's coming along. I think they're expecting homes to start going up next spring. From an infrastructure perspective, our little city is just, building things. We've got a 2 million gallon reservoir under construction right now to be done next summer to help provide water and fire suppression for all the new growth happening. We're building a new park. It's a Veterans Memorial Park that's right off the highway. That'll be done in time for Veterans Day next month. We have an urban renewal agency that's becoming more and more active, especially on the Glencoe corridor and downtown, and trying to work more on infill. That's pretty much all we have left at this point, is just some infill lots in town. But we got a TGM grant last month, and that's really going to focus on downtown revitalization and kind of sprucing up Commercial Street. And so what I alluded to earlier is, we've updated our housing needs analysis and our EOA and all that stuff over the last 18 months. And we're just down to kind of small projects with infill. So we started an urban growth boundary expansion process, a studies process right now. And that'll probably last 18 months or so as we break it up into 2 phases. But like I said, we're not in the metro, so we work with the county and DLCD on going through that UGB expansion process. But both the EOA and the HNAs called for, I forget the exact acreage needs. I've rattled those off so many times off the top of my head this last 2 years, but combined, we're looking over 200 acres. I think it's 280 acres that we need for commercial and housing needs. So we'll start that process. We've started that process and have the first sort of PAC meeting on that here in a couple of weeks. Anyway, that's it. I'll yield the rest of my time. Andy?
Great, thank you. Erica from Sherwood, are you there?
I am. Let me start my video. All right. Good morning, everyone. Development in Sherwood over this past year really hasn't slowed down, even with COVID. Development's still going strong. We have some new industrial developments in the works. We have a large Trammell Crow site on Tualatin Sherwood Boulevard and 124th that is kicking off. We're looking at 5 new industrial buildings on that site, and they're going to be bringing in a couple hundred jobs. We're also looking at the new Willamette Water Supply Treatment Plant just south of that site as well. They're in the land use review process currently. And then we also have another new large industrial building off of Sipel Road and Tualatin Sherwood Road as well. As far as commercial developments go, we have the brand new Hampton Inn in Sherwood. It's actually the first hotel in Sherwood to open. So that's been really exciting for the community to actually have a place to stay. As far as residential developments go, we still see a very strong uptick in residential development. In our Brookman area, we have approved 3 subdivisions totaling about 240 new lots. And we're still talking to property owners in that area about annexation, because people are, pretty excited about developments. The new Sherwood High School, it's ready. It's almost complete, but it's unfortunate that they can't open for the kids because that project is pretty unbelievable. If you haven't seen or driven by the new Sherwood High School, I really encourage all of you to get out there and just take a look at it. I think it's the biggest high school in the state of Oregon. We continue to see a lot of annexations happening in our Tonkin employment area, which is great. One of the strong goals of City Council is to really balance our housing and employment opportunities in Sherwood. We're really strong in housing, but we don't have a lot of good paying, wage paying jobs in Sherwood. And we keep working with property owners out there. We're working with about 6 property owners. out there in the Tonkin employment at the moment. And this past year, we have already annexed in about 150 acres, and we're looking at, the possibility of annexing another 60 additional acres. So that's pretty exciting. We have a lot of long-range planning work as well in Sherwood. Over the past year, we've been updating our comprehensive plan. We've updated our housing needs analysis, and we anticipate adoption of that by the end of this year. We have updated our parks and recreation plan, and we anticipate that being adopted too by the end of this year, early next year. We received a Metro grant to actually do a relook of our Sherwood West preliminary concept plan. And that plan really looks at the 1,200 acres that's in our urban reserve area on the west side of Sherwood. And we're going to be kicking off that project early in 2021. And we're refreshing that plan. That plan was accepted in 2015. But there's just been, in the past 5 years, the high school has gone in that area. There's been a lot of, conversations about, road connections and whatnot. And so we just want to update that plan, do a little refresh, before the Metro legislative cycle for the UGB expansion ask in 2023, 2024. So we just are, prepping ourselves for that at the moment. We also received a grant from DLCD for our residential housing code update to meet House Bill 2001. We've currently kicked off that project, and we expect it to be complete by next June. As far as changes with COVID in our offices, City Hall, we did shut down during April and May, but the 1st of June, we opened back up, but we have limited hours. We're open Monday through Friday from 8 to noon. Half of our staff is working from home. Half of our staff are in the office every day to answer questions. People can come up to the counter. We have COVID measures in place with, protective barriers. People need to wear masks. We wipe things down after they leave. We have also been working a lot with our restaurants in downtown Sherwood. We did a little program this past summer where we shut down one of our streets downtown, and we called it the Sherwood Alfresco Dining. And that was really, really popular was popular with the restaurant owners and was popular with community members. And we continue to work with our small businesses in downtown Sherwood during this time. We have been working with the state on the COVID relief grants and getting that grant program up and started and getting money out the door to support our small businesses in Sherwood as well. We have a brand new, well, I shouldn't say brand new. We've hired Bruce Coleman. He's our economic development manager, and he's been with the city for almost a year now. And if you haven't met him, I'm sure you probably will. He's really out in the community locally and at the regional level, working with, with businesses, building relationships, and he's been a huge asset to the city. So it's great to have him on board. One final thing that the city that we're looking at is we're looking at the feasibility of some urban renewal areas in the city, and that's a project that the city council has been talking about for the past couple of months. So that's going to be kicking off too. So with that, I'm just going to yield the rest of my time to the next person.
Thanks, Erica. Skylar Warren, are you here?
Here I am. I'm Skylar Warren. I'm a senior planner with the city of Tigard, and I'm going to apologize. I'm kind of losing my voice here a little bit. So if I have to do some throat clearing, hope you'll forgive me. A lot of things going on these days for the Tigardians. Probably worth mentioning right off the bat that Marty Wine, our longtime city manager of 9 years, has left. She has gone to a city down in Salem area, and there's a search underway for a new city manager. Our COVID protocols, our offices are still closed. All of our meetings, pre-apps, just permit check-ins, that kind of thing, they're all virtual. Those things that are very physically dependent, like inspections, are still occurring as usual. COVID protocols are being followed, social distancing, mask wearing, that kind of thing on the site. Our workflow is largely unchanged, both in the remote work side, but also in the on-site side. We have seen some delays in permit review, not on the land use side, but actual building permit. That's actually not related to COVID. That's actually related to just staff turnover and having an unfilled position. And we've managed to pretty much work through the backlog there. It wasn't huge, but and Tiger tends to run pretty quickly on our permit review, but we did see a little bit of delay there. We're asking as much as possible, especially on the land use side these days, for digital submissions. It helps us, it allows things to be routed more efficiently. Obviously, with building permits, we're still taking physical documents through a Dropbox in our lobby. Helping with that is that we are in the process of switching our permitting software vendor away from Acela to Tyler Technologies. And with that, we're also piloting a switch to Bluebeam. So we're moving to digital plan review. That's going to help, both now and in the future when we're back in the office, for moving documents around between the different departments. Like some others, we're allowing outdoor business activities as part of our COVID emergency declaration. And that is going to be, extended as long as the emergency declaration is extended. Right now, that's through at least the end of the calendar year, and we expect it to probably get extended at least another quarter or two. We've offered over $2 million offered $1 million and going to offer another $1 million in local business grants through MISO and Craft 3. We leveraged some local contribution there through those agencies, and we've also provided over $200,000 in local resident support in the form of rent relief and utility assistance. Tigard, we always have a lot on the stove. Our long-range planning projects, and there's a lot here, so I'm going to apologize if I run a little long here. Tigard Made is our employment lands overhaul. That's going to include an updated economic opportunities analysis. We have a new staff member, Hope Pollard, who's heading up that project. I think it's a really exciting project where we're going to be looking closely at more flexible, less Euclidean approach to our employment lands. Similar, we have the Washington Square Regional Center update. That's where we're looking at the Washington Square Mall area. That is a regional center in the Metro 2040 plan. So we're already seeing some redevelopment activity there on the Macerich owned mall property. If you're not familiar with Washington Square Regional or the Washington Square Mall, I think it's in the top 5 most profitable on a square foot basis malls in the entire country. So when they're looking at redevelopment there, they're really looking at more residential inclusion there and moving it more toward something along the lines of Bridgeport Village, but with a more entertainment focus, away from the sort of indoor shop approach, traditional mall approach. But of course, that project is always also looking at ways that we can more equitably provide for residential redevelopment in the area. We have our River Terrace 2.0 concept planning project underway. I'm the project manager on that. We're looking at concept planning for 500 acres in what's known as Roy Rogers East and West, but what we call River Terrace West and South. And particularly for River Terrace South, we're looking at a mid-cycle application to Metro to bring that into the UGB. For River Terrace West, maybe mid-cycle, but probably more likely the regular cycle, similar to what Erica said in Sherwood. We have a transportation system plan update that is underway. We're looking really closely at incorporating climate change considerations, particularly, looking at what DLCD and ODOT are doing under the Governor's Executive Order 2004 to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And of course, this project is going to wrap before that rulemaking is done, but we're still looking for, some inclusion of policy there. We're also looking at a more multimodal approach to our system and incorporating the regional mobility update approaches. We have a housing needs analysis underway that is funded by a DLCD grant. We are incorporating HB 2001 and 2003 considerations, although of course we've already done our missing middle housing options project back in 2018. We have transit-oriented development planning underway for the Southwest Corridor Light Rail project. So presuming that that is approved by the voters and here in about 12 days.
30 seconds.
Okay, we'll be doing that. We have a transportation growth management grant for downtown, particularly along Hall Boulevard, to look at jurisdictional transfer of Hall from the state to the city and transit-oriented development around the Hall station area. We have a plan for equitable expenditures from our URA, Urban Reserve area in the Tiger Triangle, and we have a parks system master plan update. As I mentioned, we had the housing options project in 2018. We also had an affordable housing plan that we adopted in 2019. We've adopted a number of policies around there, including SDC exemptions for ADUs, a construction excise tax to fund affordable housing, a land banking tax exemption. And on the development side, we're seeing, that continuing apace on the residential side, a little bit of slowing on the commercial side. We have 600 units of affordable housing currently as of 2019, and subsequent to this policy changes in the Metro bond, we see 1,000 units of affordable housing in some stage of planning or construction right now in the city. One of those is a senior center housing project that is funded, we recently found out was funded by Metro bond dollars. And we're seeing an increasing number of missing middle projects, including a huge increase in ADU applications, and most notably 10 2 ADU applications in 2019. So that's 2 ADUs on the same lot, and 14 of those in 2020 so far. Worth noting as well that ADUs are inclusive of what we used to call duplexes and triplex. We've also seen 3 cottage clusters approved so far through a type 1 process.
Let's wrap it up, Skylar.
Yeah, we're expecting much more activity in that area in the coming years, especially in the River Terrace 2.0 area. That's it. Thanks.
Great. Appreciate it. Sorry for being the
Nope.
czar here, but Miranda, you're up.
Good morning. Thank you. I am also going to attempt to put up a presentation because people always prefer pictures than just hearing what I have to say. I don't know what just happened on my Zoom. Do you guys see my presentation?
Yep, you're good.
Okay. Although I need to be able to see the other parts of my screen. Okay. Hopefully this works out well. We'll see. It's as if I haven't been doing this for the last 8 months. Anyway, good morning, everybody. Like everybody else has spoken this morning, COVID-19, the pandemic has really changed how we're getting things done here in the city of Wilsonville, but we've adapted. We have an amazing team that I think is more resilient and more connected than we were before. We've had to support across divisions. We've had to increase our communication so that we can get business done as usual. And we're proud to say that because of our amazing team, we haven't had an interruption to service. There were about 6 weeks where the office was closed to the public, but staff were still in the office with those who could, shifting to part-time telework schedules. We then reopened to the public on June 1. I don't have a real good picture of the front counter, but you can see even on our plans table, we've put up some of these glass screens. We've gone to a lot of remote inspections, which you can see one of our building officials there with his iPad and communicating with developers and contractors on site. We continue to do a combination of office and telework. We've maintained our service protocols, and in some cases, we're even speeding things up. When we did have a COVID-19 confirmed case in our office, we had an entire division that went out, and we essentially all went hands on deck. And we're happy to report that we maintained all deadlines with our customers. We covered kind of each other in different divisions, and I'm also happy to report that we had no additional COVID cases because of our response. We've modified many of our procedures to provide remote services. We've turned to a lot more online applications and fee acceptance, including our public hearings. We haven't had to cancel a single public hearing or work session yet, including during the fires. We only had one work session, which was during the fires where City Hall doors were shut. Otherwise, we have allowed citizens to attend in person if they need to, although trying to provide as many mechanisms as we can for them not to. Public engagement is more difficult. I haven't heard much about that. I know we're focused on development, and I'll get to more pictures about that soon. But that is challenging for us, particularly from an equity perspective. A lot of people don't have the means to participate electronically or by Zoom, and so we're trying to figure out how we make that accessible to all of our residents. We are providing free and expedited reviews for temporary uses, conditional uses related to existing businesses that need to adapt to outside spaces to respond to COVID and the provisions put in place by the governor. So we have anybody who's needing to have outdoor seating or a grab and go space or some type of intake, we're working with them to do that quickly and free of charge. We have had consistent permitting and development application review. We've actually had a lot more of our administrative review permits this spring and summer while people were at home. They were taking care of those trees, building those porches, finally putting that shed in their backyard. So we had a lot of customer calls about that. Our commercial and industrial activity has not slowed. We've had our construction continue, and we have new development applications and pre-apps. On this slide, you can see pictures of our new Hilton, which is wrapping up. That is now welcoming folks to Wilsonville and the region as they come across the Boone Bridge heading north. We also have redevelopment of previously vacant commercial and industrial buildings that were along I-5, including Grace Chapel, which you see here on the right. And then also the new INE's main office headquarter building that's right adjacent and you see on I-5, as well as then buildings in the Parkway Woods development, which is the old Xerox campus. We've also leased out the old Hollywood building. We're also seeing significant investment in Coffee Creek, or the beginning of it. We've been investing significantly in the infrastructure, particularly on Garden Acres Road, and building that out. And at the same time, just a couple weeks ago, we've approved this new industrial building. It's our first application of the industrial form-based code, and this was approved a few weeks ago at Development Review Board. We also see housing activity. We've got Frog Pond West building permits have slowed a bit as we compare them to Villebois, but it's also a different housing type, so that could be part of it. And we still have 2 subdivision projects that are continuing with entitlements, either hopefully about to come in and one that has just been completed. So you can see on this that we have a mix. We've got a mix of infill, Villebois, Frog Pond. There's still strong housing activity in Wilsonville as well. Looking at the numbers, our numbers really are tracking consistent across the last 3 years. Looking ahead, I guess I'll leave this picture up here. Looking ahead, we're replacing our permit software as well. Sounds like we're in good company with others, which I think, and given recent activities, we might be more prepared for it than we were. We're excited to move more electronically, go online, hoping to kind of maintain the efficiency that we've gained a little bit in COVID and hopefully making it easier with that. However, it will take a lot of our time. So we're nervous about that in terms of being able to still deliver the same level of customer service. That should launch to the public and to our development community next year. So that's exciting. We're hoping to see some town center development happen soon. We actually might be close to seeing our first project in the town center since we established the new vision or plan and plan a 1.5 years ago. So fingers crossed that that goes well. We expect to see more development in Coffee Creek, especially as we finalize the build out of Garden Acres Road and move up towards Day Road in that urban renewal area. And then we'll complete master planning for Basalt Creek. And then we see tons of housing work. We have House Bill 2001 and middle housing implementation like many others. Once that work is done, we will move into master planning Frog Pond East and South, which came into the urban growth boundary a couple of years ago now. That's going to be over 1,300 units. And with middle housing implementation, it may be higher than we initially planned.
30 seconds.
And then when that's perfect, when that's wrapping up, we'll be going into our housing needs analysis and our housing production strategy to see what the next wave of housing will look like and where it'll be in Wilsonville. So I'm happy to answer any questions and cede my last 15 seconds to the next person.
Miranda, it looks like Mike isn't here, so we're gonna let Damon do the last presentation. Go for it.
Good morning, everybody. I hope all are doing well. I'm going to bring up a presentation here quickly. Everybody see that?
Perfect.
Good. So I want to start by thanking the development community and our applicants over the last several months. We really appreciate at Clean Water Services the patience we've had from our applicants as we've transitioned from doing business in person to doing business a lot more remotely. As many of you are probably aware, Clean Water Services have been doing things very much the old-fashioned way, paper reviews and responses, and of course in-person meetings. And it's been a big steep learning curve to go to being primarily online and electronic, but I think we've done it successfully, and just wanted to thank people for your patience, because I know at times it slowed us down a bit and it's been a bit clunky, but I think that it's been successful overall. And I think we have learned a lot from that effort that will move forward and make things better. Most of our staff that's doing plan review and permitting are working remotely, although technically our administration building in Hillsborough is open. But if you're wanting to drop off plans or pick up permits or make payments, we're asking people to ideally make appointments. And I've got this list of things that you can find on our website. But I think the key takeaway from this is really that if you're uncertain about how you can interact with us, please call our main line and we will do pretty much whatever we need to do to accommodate. the development community in terms of getting things to you and from you. So I won't go through this whole list, but again, it's available in our permits and development section on our website. Our inspection, I'll just mention our inspection group is still going out to make site visits on a regular basis. They're limited in their office time and having to work out of their vehicles a little bit more, but they are out in the field. We are fully staffed and doing those inspections. So I'm going to jump to talking about where we're at with reviews, and I selected 3 different review types to hit on, and this is much the same story that we heard from many of the cities and the county, but I think it's interesting to kind of see the different places in the review cycle and what was happening compared to previous years. So this is our service provider letter requests by quarter. And the quarters are in our fiscal year, which start July 1 and go through June 30. So when you see quarter 1 fiscal year 2021, that just ended here at end of September. And service provider letters is something that we do for the entire urban portion of the county, both unincorporated and within cities. What you'll notice in previous years, or the previous year of 2019, usually in the spring and summer, we have quite a bump in the number of service provider letter requests. We didn't really see that as much this year. Didn't really drop off, but didn't get that big bump either. Although we did end of summer start to see an upward trend in those. This is our site development applications, again by the fiscal quarters. The site development applications are unincorporated part of the county only. And you'll notice the numbers are fairly small compared to the service provider letter numbers. But these are, the big residential subdivisions, commercial developments, industrial developments, those kinds of things. So again, we've continued to see a continuance in the level of applications that we get. Some of these developments might be not as big as subdivisions as we had been seeing in the previous year, which kind of leads into the next part of the process. And these are our connection permits issued. And I think this is maybe the most telling. This is at the point where people with those big subdivisions or with individual properties are buying those sewer connections or stormwater connection permits. And this spring, when COVID hit around quarter 3, we saw a drop off there as compared to previous years when we usually start to pick up as we go into the construction season or through the construction season. But we are starting to see a little bit of a rebound in that right now. So that's pretty much what I brought. I didn't have specific projects to share, but just kind of wanted to give an overview of what we're seeing. Again, if there are any concerns or uncertainties about how to interact with us, please feel free to give us a call and we'll work with you. And that's it.
Great, appreciate it. We have some time for some question and answers. I believe we're going to distribute the emails of everybody who presented today. I know that you may have specific questions that you may be a little hesitant in a forum to ask a specific question to a jurisdiction just because you're kind and understanding, and it just doesn't make sense to do that. But if there are questions out there, feel free to raise your hand and we'll try to answer them. Michael, are you the seer of the hand raisers?
Yeah, I'm looking for some. I don't see any at the time. But an interesting note for you is that Sky definitely won with 3 extra minutes. So if you want to, send all your requests to him.
There you go. I'll give it another 15 seconds for questions.
Rob Saxton just rose his hand. You should be able to unmute yourself and ask your question now, Rob.
Hi, this is Rob Saxton with Washington County. I just had a question for Tigard, and we're curious to know, when do you anticipate the UGB expansion along West Union, or along Shoals Ferry Road to the west?
By Shoals, so Shoals Ferry is east-west. So do you mean to the west of Roy Rogers?
Correct, yeah.
I think the intent is right now that we would apply for the UGB expansion with the regular cycle. So same thing as Sherwood West. There's a slight chance that it might come in mid-cycle. I doubt that right now. It's a possibility. In terms of, when things get underway with community planning for that, it's not as much of a priority as South, because South is the connector between the current River Terrace and King City West. And that's pretty important for infrastructural connections through their roads, sewer, stormwater, water.
So you're thinking maybe 2024 then?
Gosh, I hate to even hazard a guess. In terms of bringing it in, I think, yeah, 2024 is the safest guess. As far as when it develops,
okay, thank you.
Don't know.
Great. Other questions? I do see we have the forum contacts up, and we can distribute that electronically also. Any other questions out there?
Andy, it was distributed yesterday in the reminder email also.
Great. Like I said, we've already distributed it. Well, there's no need to carry this on. I want to thank everyone for doing this. It's certainly a little different. I think it's a good way to get the presentations out. It's a little harder to have those one-on-one conversations that are really sort of the blood and guts of the development forum, in my opinion. So hopefully when April rolls around, who knows, probably 50-50 at this chance, but we may be able to do it all in person by then. So if there aren't any other final comments, I'll just wrap it up and thank everybody for attending, and hope you enjoy the rest of your October.
Thanks, Andy.